Bits and Bricks.
Welcome to Bits and Bricks, a podcast about all things Lego games. I'm Ethan Vincent.
And I'm Brian Crecente. Together we look back at the rich 25-year history of Lego games, chat with early developers as well as seasoned studios who have all tackled the creation of video games for one of the most popular and respected toy companies in the world, the Lego Group.
Why, hello, Brian.
Hey, how's it going?
It is going very well, as you can tell, because we are both in our Christmas sweaters right next to the fire, all cozy, and we are just getting ready for the holidays here, aren't we?
Yes, and I wanna describe my ugly holiday sweater because I'm so proud of it.
Yes.
It's a unicorn, of course, and it has little lights that light up, and the unicorn is what's a nice way of putting this? It is extruding pieces of candy violently.
I see. It's having that holiday overload moment, right, where it's just too much.
Too much holiday sweets.
Yes. Do you have traditions and stuff? Any favorite movies or things that you watch to kind of get ready for the holiday season?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we are huge fans of the movie Elf, of course.
Oh, we are
Love
too.
the Elf.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people, especially our generation, love A Christmas Story, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I actually recently decided I really wanted to go back and watch The Grinch with
Jim Carrey, or
with Jim Carrey, which I think is a classic. He's so great in that movie. I love it. So what about you? Do you like have things that you watch?
Oh yeah, we love Elf as well. I mean, I love the scene where he's getting the candy off the subway, and chewing gum that's old. That's always gets a great laugh, and also how he answers the phone. Yes, it's just so great. There's so many wonderful moments, and it never goes old. I mean, it's one of those fun Christmas evergreen movies for sure.
Yes, you know what movie we can't watch? And I think it's hard to watch. That is the Star Wars Christmas special. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that. It's funny how that's this cultural phenomenon and this bootleg that showed up out of nowhere, and now you see reference to it everywhere. But boy, was that a crazy kind of thing. Have you ever actually watched the whole thing?
Yes. Well, I watched it when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I at the time loved it. I've gone back and watched it.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, it's painful.
It just doesn't make sense sometimes too, right? Where it just jumps all over and does all kinds of crazy things.
Yes.
But it was in that really interesting period right after Star Wars went huge, not huge enough to be a cult classic and to be, unattainable. And someone had the idea of this Christmas variety show, right? That's like, hey, let's make it fun, sing and dance and bring in the stormtroopers.
Yeah, and celebrate Life Day, which was this sort of, I guess, generically created holiday, which has, pardon the pun, taken on a life of its own.
Yes. Well, we have a movie that we are looking at, the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special is what it's called, which is a holiday special. And, that was funny because that was the first thought I have. It's like, wow, this is probably in reference to the Star Wars TV Holiday Special. So have you seen the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special trailer?
I have, yeah. And, it's amazing. I also watched the movie, of course.
Yes, I have too, and it's quite fun. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think it's one of those things that's going to be fun to watch with the kids and kind of get ready for the holidays. So let's take a listen to that trailer.
Yes.
'Twas the night before Life Day, in a galaxy far, far away.
Looking good. Tree, food, decorations.
Coming together heroes were to celebrate the day.
Please be a cape. Please be a cape.
It's a wrap! For Rey, adventure called, and she thought it would be fast.
Wow.
But there she found a key to the galaxy's past. A time of joy. This is
Rey!
A friendship. A family.
Who are you guys?
Master Skywalker.
My son. These binary sons.
Yeah, so Brian, it's this story that's all over the place. Fun little idea here where we're following Rey, and she gets to jump into by the means of some portal magic into all the episodes and see all the great Jedi Masters and kind of learn from them. It's a fun little mashup of sorts with all kinds of little references and insiders that I thought was cool.
Yeah, and it's also about the Celebration of Life Day. But more importantly, at least for us, I think, Ethan, is that when you look at something like this, you can't help but think about all of those Lego video games, and in particular, the original Lego Star Wars game, which really sort of set the look and the tone for these sort of endeavors.
Yes, and it's so crazy how we do that, right? I can't look at anything Lego Digital anymore without thinking of the early days and just the effort it takes to get the polygons to look that way, and the kind of the philosophy and the rules behind how a minifig should move. I mean, there's just so much that goes into these things. And both of us familiar with the Lego group also knows how much, is important on their end. They take great pride in being as close as possible to the physical brick, which I think is great.
Yeah, it's very cool. And the representation of the brick in digital form is obviously a huge theme of our podcast, which explains a little bit, I guess, about why that's what we're talking about this episode.
Yep. And we reached out to the director, Ken Cunningham, and we asked him all things related to the movie and how it came together. So let's take a listen to that and enjoy. Welcome to our little podcast, Ken.
Hey, thanks very much.
Why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and your background. We'd love to get to know you a little bit and, kind of how you got to this point to be able to direct this fun animated holiday special.
I guess, basically, I started directing many years ago, sort of starting in preschool. I've been at Atomic Cartoons for about 4 years now. Prior to that, I was living in Toronto and directing at a number of different studios there. Made the move to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Basically was hired by Atomic Cartoons to move out, came out. We landed some Lego content. I've been doing that for several years now, starting on Jurassic World. Did about 4 specials in a series, have done some Marvel content, Spider-Man and Avengers, and the latest project is the Star Wars Holiday Special, which, has totally been a geeky dream come true for me, being a Star Wars kid from the 70s. And I sort of wonder if this is the high point of my career, really.
No, it's a fun special. It was great to watch. Did you start kind of, like all of us playing, with Lego sets growing up, or do you have a favorite kind of Lego set that you grew up with, or a certain period? What was that like for you in your childhood? I mean, your affinity for, the Lego group.
Yeah, no, totally. Back when I was a kid, it was sort of pre the Lego sets per se, or the licensed sets. Back when I was a kid, it was just, a small box or a big box.
Yeah, exactly.
And I loved it. I mean, playing with that stuff was great. I've also kind of reacquainted myself with it. Obviously working on this stuff, but also being a father of a 10-year-old, and she loves Lego bricks. So it's a kind of a connecting point for her and I. She's really big into the Harry Potter sets. We've got a few of those kicking around, and obviously, I'm doing the Star Wars stuff, so we've gotten a couple of Star Wars things too.
Right.
And then I've got my own stuff, actually. I'm really big, actually, right now on their kind of classic NASA stuff. So I've got the Saturn V, and I've got the Lunar Lander, and I've got my eye this Christmas on the International Space Station.
So you obviously you've done a number of Lego shorts and TV shows. When did you first hear about this idea of creating a Lego Star Wars special? How did that sort of come about?
Yeah, I was working on the Jurassic series at the time, and it sort of came. I had a meeting actually with my sort of head of production, and he said that we were being looked at to do some Star Wars content, that they wanted us to do a test. So we proceeded to do a test, which, they wanted to really see if we could hit that sort of cinematic Star Wars look. And so we sort of dug in on that. I looked really strongly at the films, and actually, kind of took, at the time, the trailer for the new game that's coming out in the new year was kicking around. So we looked at the quality of that, which was really awesome. And we just sort of pushed as hard as we could. Delivered a look I was pretty satisfied with, and apparently so was Lucasfilm, because we got the gig.
Wow. So, Ken, how would you pitch the movie? How would you describe the movie? How would you, help viewers understand what this movie's about?
Yeah, it's a rip-roaring time romp through, basically all the Star Wars fan favorite moments. We're focused on Rey, her journey to, be comfortable being a Jedi Master. And learn from all the other masters who've come before her. Really, a lot of the motivation for the whole thing came from me, like I said earlier, being a Star Wars kid. I was one of those kids that was, I think I was 10 when the first film came out, and my friends and I, we'd go to see it, just over and over. Yeah. I think I saw it probably 20 times in the theater during that first run. And we were allowed at that point, you could just go to the matinee showing and sit through 3 showings. And
that's amazing.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So I've got to ask, especially because you're of the generation, and I think Ethan and I both are, that the original Star Wars Holiday Special came out. Was there at any time where you were thinking, hey, maybe we should recreate that with Lego minifigures, or maybe we should do a little bit of a wink and a nod to that original special, or was it just something you never even thought of touching on?
Yeah, that one's complicated.
I can imagine.
It did, but it was more just a touchstone and a starting point. And we have stuff in there that, is definitely from it, like the Wookiees and, being on the Millennium Falcon with Chewie's family.
And Life Day, right?
And Life Day, yes, exactly. Well, and, and aired on Life Day. It's sort of it's funny that has sort of become, canon and become kind of a big fan thing, really. That's the main connecting point. It's really more grounded in the more recent films, and obviously, all the kind of key, iconic Star Wars moments.
Right.
For me personally, again, I was probably 11 when that came out. And it was just at the time, it was more Star Wars. It was a bit confusing because it wasn't on the same level, obviously, but at the same time, I was like, wow, more Star Wars. I just take whatever I could get at that point.
That's a very nice way of putting it.
Yeah, and it had that awesome Boba Fett cartoon.
Right.
Yeah, which was actually really cool at the time.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so funny. As much as people like to sort of knock it, the reality is I think an entire generation that watched that right around, the time that the movie had come out loved it. Like you said, we weren't really, I was I think 8 when it came out, and I didn't look at it and think, oh, this is terrible, this isn't canon. I just was like, oh, this is great. Yeah. Like you said, more Star Wars, but on TV.
Yeah, totally.
And so in that one, it's celebrating Life Day. You guys touch on Life Day. Did you manage to squeeze any sort of Easter eggs in there? Is there anything people should look out for, or is Life Day really the only sort of touching point?
Oh, from the special, really, that's kind of like the touching point. We've got the Wookiees, we've got Itchy, and but yeah, there's not a ton in there that we really picked up on. And that was by choice, really. It's really it's a more modern, it's centered around Rey and Finn.
Right.
And is that fluidity to be able to jump between the various Star Wars sagas? Was that something that you think is kind of in sync with the video game to be released soon? Is this something that kind of helps that in sense of you can jump into any kind of episode you want and play and then leave and that kind of thing? Do you think there's maybe an impetus there, or is that the origin, or how do you interpret that?
I wouldn't say it's the origin, but I think it definitely creates a strong connection. Mm-hmm. And that's the appeal of a game, right? You can jump into these narratives and experience them yourself. And this, the special kind of establishes that as a storytelling premise,
So
yeah, absolutely. I think that can connect for sure.
Yeah, I watch how my son plays with, Lego bricks, and he throws everything together, So this idea that you can play with whatever you want, whenever you want, no matter what, era the set is in, particularly when it relates to Star Wars and it gets more complex with, all the episodes. So to me, that was a very fun kind of interactive experience, just to jump all around and have fun, show up in an elevator, show up on the lap of Luke, there's some really fun little kind of insider things and fun little moments that you recreated. I thought it was really fun to watch those.
Yeah, we had so much fun with that. And I mean, from again, to just sort of be I kept commenting gleefully at various points in the production, it would just, my little 10-year-old heart would be aflutter, I remember when I first was starting to do script work and I was working through the trench run sequence and I was sort of drawing out shots, and I had this really weird moment of deja vu, doing a little thumbnail of the classic down the trench with the X-Wing coming to camera. Yeah. And just having this visceral memory of drawing that when I was 10 and 11,
wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And then when I saw the board, when the board got pitched to me, again it was oh,
wow,
this is so awesome, and then reviewing it in lighting, it's oh my gosh. Yeah.
Did you guys when you were? I know that with the Lego Movie, the people over there were using a form of Lego Digital Designer. I think they called it the Hollywood version, to sort of basically build out some of the things they needed to see what they would look like in Lego brick form. Were you guys doing anything like that, or what sort of tools were you using to create this stuff?
We absolutely use the Lego Digital Designer. So to a certain extent, our designers are just putting digital models together from a huge library of bricks. But then we have to take that and ingest it into our system. So it sort of comes into Maya, goes through all our surfacing tools, and, so that it can interact with our lighting environment.
So, and just because I think there are a lot of people who aren't aware of Lego Digital Designer, just so we can all picture this in our heads, you had designers who were essentially literally putting digital bricks together to build sets, it sounds like, to some degree.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, they're basically taking, virtual digitized Lego and clicking it together and putting the pieces together to make something. I mean, frequently they'll be working off an image from our design team. Right. But the design team, too, will be doing the same thing. So as they're kind of roughing together concepts for the art director and I to look at, they'll also be working in Digital Designer and building these quick little things and then maybe pull them into Photoshop and do a quick paint over on them to, flesh the idea out.
Is that... From my perspective, that seems so, in a very cool way, that seems so weird. Were you wow, this is so bizarre that they're doing this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been doing CG for a long time. So it sort of seems natural. This weird disconnection where you're working in a computer. It's very much nowadays, there's very few kind of analog tools used in the digital animation process. Besides me scribbling on scripts, which even now I basically do on an iPad.
Right.
There's very little paper, pen, or tactile materials used anymore. I mean, that's sort of what I miss about the days when I worked in stop motion is there were physical sets and physical puppets, and I could walk downstairs and my DP would come into the set and we'd talk about where we were going to put the lights, and it was, you could reach out and move the puppet around or move the set pieces around against where the camera was sitting. But I mean, that's all digital now,
Yeah, so. It is.
So if you had tried to do something like this using physical bricks and physical minifigs, obviously completely different thing because it would have been, stop motion in its truest form. But is that even possible, do you think, today with the size of these sets and the way that you guys sort of implement both the bricks and the non-brick backdrops?
Yeah, it would be extremely hard due to the scale of the actual minifigs themselves versus like how big. I mean, I like based on the sort of like because there's limitations to what we can do digitally based on sort of memory size of scene file. So we can't just build on forever either. Like there's sort of a memory limit to what we're allowed to do. So we have to like, early on when we're talking through logistics, usually when we're putting together like the asset list and stuff, we sort of talk through what the implications of certain sets are and what we are going to build, and then I have to like work with my storyboard artist to work within the framework of those limitations. I think like the real, to do, true stop mo that would sort of meet the level of the Lego films it's really more down to like the small size of the minifigs and
right.
Rigging that stuff up and like the physical limits of the minifigs themselves more than anything else.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think what's fascinating, and I'm sure Ethan, you probably have the same feelings about it, but like it's interesting that you can trace back to sort of the root of Lego Digital Designer to basically everything in terms of motion, at least, that the Lego Group and Lego Bricks are sort of dealing with. So Lego Digital Designer is now sometimes used for actually designing sets, and they use it sometimes for instructions. They use it for video games. They're using it for movies. I think that's really fascinating, just that use.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, it's cool because anybody can download it off the internet, like
right.
Yeah, and it's actually becoming something too where I feel like we're becoming more and more kind of literate with it, in the sense that it's no longer this kind of clunky tool that struggles with, polygon count. But I mean, even downloading on my laptop and playing in it and using it, you become a little bit more fluid and versatile with it. And it feels like, building in this space is fine. That's something I don't think was happening, 15 or 20 years ago, granted technology, but also just, I think the concept of doing it digitally wasn't really a thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, like this is a thing we deal with in our industry where like just the tools are constantly getting better. Yeah. So, even like 4 or 5 years ago, like series I worked on then, the technical limitations we were dealing with are all kind of like just blown out of the water at this point. Yeah. So you're kind of constantly able to like, which is great for, somebody like me, like where you're constantly able to kind of push the look of what you're doing, and it just makes our ability to do more ambitious projects.
So I want to talk a little bit about these rules. The Lego Group has tons of rules, and then, you go back to doing Lego Jurassic World, Lego Marvel Spider-Man. So you come with all this experience, I think, working with the Lego Group, and now you're throwing in, Lucasfilm, and you've got a huge IP, and you've got a very strong brand with a lot of rules. How did you navigate that? Was there like daily handoffs? Did you have to get everything approved? How was that working for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a heavy approval process. Pretty much every asset goes in front of the Lego Group. Less so, like Lucasfilm defers to them on a lot of that stuff, like on an asset level, or anything that's basically Lego brand related. And then on the Lucasfilm side, it's sort of more, they're obviously their main concern is the Star Wars brand. That's where a lot of that insight comes from. And then I just, we don't do daily handoffs, but I sort of do a weekly creative call. And we talk through, I basically come into the meeting with any questions I have or anything that I want to, do and put forward and pitch to them. Any reactions to notes, we just sort of hash through everything sort of that is kind of most current to what we're doing in production on that week, say.
That's awesome. I think about, just what it takes to pull this off. And one of the things that you talked about, too, is this idea that the Lego Group, wants certain things to be very clear in how you represent the brand, right? So like the Lego logo on the studs, different things. But then I also saw some really interesting things in the film, which was, for example, when Ray, sits down and meditates. There was a shot where I thought, oh, that's interesting. There's certain like Lego minifig representations where it's like, oh, there's a little bit of liberty taken there. I don't have to see every little, clutch or stud or things like that. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Was that something too that seemed to be a little bit fluid in how you were able to be creative with the Lego brand?
Yeah, I mean, we there's a line we draw. Like, I guess we sort of have this sort of 70-30 rule of like 70% Lego to 33 or 30% organic.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Yeah.
Although that organic is frequently like something that, looks like it is also plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we like, and if there's any, like, we get, sorry, I'm like being super inarticulate here. Basically,
well, it's
like,
such an exciting question, isn't it?
There's like, if there's a physical problem that comes up that we need to get around, I'll flag it and kind of we'll talk through how we think we can solve the problem and kind of you get a yay or nay on that. Or, sometimes it's like comes down to like a scale issue. Like, you take, say, like the Star Destroyer and you scale it up and those studs start to kill the idea of scale. So sometimes there's places where you want to strip them off.
Yeah.
There are rules around, they don't want minifigs walking on studs. So if I have a surface that is a actual Lego set that maybe has studs in it, but I need to walk a character through, we'll remove those studs. And so there's a fluidity, absolutely. And it basically comes down to the needs of the story more than anything else.
Well, and that makes sense. Like, you don't want them getting stuck.
Exactly. Because
their little feet would get stuck. You'd have to get out the orange tool.
It's all over. And then the union gets upset, and
that's right.
Yes,
who moved who? What's going on? Exactly. What's your favorite moment in the film? There's so many fun little exchanges. I'm excited to watch it with my 5-year-old. I can see him laughing at various points, probably even out loud, and just enjoying it. Do you have favorite moments and segments from the film?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the portal jumping sequence where we're kind of going through, all these iconic moments. But honestly, I think my favorite moment is, when Ray, after Ray talks to Yoda and she builds her own portal. That for me, like, just because, as somebody working in animation and particularly North American animation, the frame in which you're working is children's material. So you don't frequently get a chance to do emotional work. And that, for me, that's a really emotional scene. And I think we pulled it off pretty well. So that's, I think, one of my favorite moments, honestly.
Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome. I also love the fact that Yoda's narrating and you kind of have to put the sentences together. I thought there couldn't be a more complicated Yoda where I'm like, wait, what is he saying? Oh, yeah, it's a Yoda sentence.
It's all backwardsy.
Did you have to rewrite that several times? Like, okay, I think we really lost him here because that sentence makes no sense the way it's put together.
His stuff went through like a lot of rewrites and pickups for sure.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like you start to, when we first put an assembly of the whole thing together, like we were way long. So we have to like start to, cut time and decide what can go. And, and frequently those connecting moments needed to get kind of trimmed down. So then we'd have to like rewrite what he was saying to make those connection moments work.
How big's the team there? I'm just curious what your studio's like. I apologize that we didn't ask that up front, but I want to hear about how many people are working on this. And because that this is a lot of time and energy and just probably an army of people putting this together and, giving it their all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. At Atomic, my crew, it ranges really depending on what part of production we're in, but like, I think, when we're sort of like up and fully running, we'll be at around or at peaks, we're at around 130 people just on the Lego content. Right now, I can't even, due to COVID, I'm not even sure, where we're at. But, studio-wide, I think we're around, what was the last number I heard? Over 500.
Wow.
550, maybe closing on 600.
Oh,
wow.
But again, that fluctuates, based on
so really an
what's
army.
going on. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, this has been really fascinating conversation, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. I want to thank you so much again for joining us, Ken. Can you remind us again, where can we find the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special? Where can people watch it?
Yeah, it's streaming on Disney+.
Excellent. And is there a window of time that people have to catch it, or do you know?
No, I mean, I think it'll be evergreen at this point. I know Disney Plus is trying to push it through the holiday season, they'll be sort of pushing it through, through to the new year. I don't know if it'll stay on. I know their plan is that it hopefully becomes kind of an annual thing. So I don't know if they'll take it down, for the rest of the year and then put it up every holiday, or whether they're just going to leave it up.
Very cool. Well, I hope you listeners have enjoyed listening to this little holiday reprieve, and that you stick around to continue listening to the podcast that we have. We've got some great episodes coming up, right, Ethan?
Yep, we sure do. It's been a fun chat. I really appreciate your time, Ken. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely a pleasure.
Again, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, so there you have it.
Yeah.
I thought that was great, and Ken had such a fun way of talking about the movie. I think everyone should take a look at that and have fun time together and just enjoy this special season.
Yes, and make sure you come back next week when we return to our regular episodes.
Yes.
Which we hope are going to be fascinating to you. And with that, happy holidays from our families to yours.
Bits and Bricks is made possible by LEGO Games. Our producer is Ronnie Scher. Your hosts are Ethan Vincent and Brian Crecente. Episode producing and editing by Ethan Vincent. Writing by Brian Crecente. Mixing and sound design by Dan Carlisle. Original music by Peter Premer. We'd like to thank our participant, Ken Cunningham, and his entire team at Atomic Cartoons and other studios for their work on the LEGO Star Wars Holiday Special. We'd also like to acknowledge the entire LEGO Games team, as well as the great folks at the LEGO Idea House for their support. For questions or comments, write us at bitsandbricks@lego.com. And as always, stay tuned for more episodes of Bits and Bricks.